Okay, welcome back to the Software Circus. I'm here with Kris Nova. First, few shout outs. So first of all, we have a couple of hours of content left. In the meantime, I want to talk about some of our sponsors. We got Equinix Metal, Cycloid, Giant Swarm, Instana, and Kinfolk, all of whom have booths in the booth area on the Brella app. Container Solutions, of course, apart from doing a lot of work behind the scenes today, also are sponsoring the 200 t-shirt raffle. Now, you don't have to do anything to get one of those by signing up. You already entered yourself to that, and we will be reaching out later to say who the winners are. Kris, are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. Well, then take it away.
Okay. Wow, this is so seamless. Y'all are doing such a professional, amazing job. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to my house where I live in San Francisco. I am in my computer room studio office area, and I'm going to be giving a presentation for you all today. So I do most of my presentations on the command line. Every once in a while, I will use like proper slides and do like a mountain themed presentation, but I'm doing this one on the command line because I don't want the visual component to take away from the words that I'm actually saying. This is I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but this is going to be, if not the single most important talk of my career, definitely up there in a lot of them. So the first question I have is, this is for the conference organizers. Is there a way for me to engage with anyone or talk to anyone? And if not, that's okay. I will just keep doing my presentation. But if folks have questions or comments, I would absolutely love to be able to read them. So feel free to drop that in the Zoom chat or Slack me or Twitter me or message me or whatever. Without further ado, let's get into my presentation here. I think we have 20 minutes, so I will do my best to pace myself. We have, I think, 13 slides to go through, so that's just over a minute per slide. And yeah, let's get started. So about me, my name is Kris Nova, and the title of this talk is So You Want to Be a Developer Advocate. And I'm going to be sharing as much information as possible about what's going through my head as I'm doing a public speech and about the advocacy discipline in general. And this is going to be a very cold, hard truth at what I've been doing professionally for the past 5 years. Well, 3 years, depending on how you look at it, but 5 years if you ask me. Anyway, so I'm an author. I wrote an O'Reilly book. I'm a co-author with a guy named Justin Garrison, wonderful, beautiful human being, great friend of mine. I'm a maintainer. I've been a maintainer of different open source projects, everything from Kubernetes to Falco to just all over the internet. I'm a hacker. I like to break shit. I'm an alpinist. I like to climb mountains, particularly hard mountains. And if you haven't seen one of my presentations before, welcome. This is your first Kris Nova presentation. And I always start all of them off with a good problem space, a good, what are we trying to solve here? What are we doing here? What's going on? So the question is, what really is developer advocacy? What really is it? So I put together a few graphs and let's just jump right into them. So I get asked this question a lot, and I get asked this question both professionally and kind of like a one-off, off the cuff, in private, one-on-one with people. And usually, after talking with a lot of people, this is the breakdown that I think most people think of when they think of developer advocacy. And granted, like there's evangelism, there's advocacy, there's developer relationships. What is DevRel? What does all this mean? But this is a really balanced, healthy way to start the conversation. And you can dial these up or down as needed. But really, when people talk about it, this is what they think. They think that it's, a quarter engineering, a quarter marketing, a quarter project management, a quarter community. What that usually means is engineering is both advocating for the products that we're building, as well as delivering feedback back to the engineering team. So when I say engineering here, I think of a two-way conversation, both inbound and outbound for engineering. Marketing. At the end of the day, like, we use a lot of the same tools marketing does. We want you to click buttons. We want to track certain things. And ultimately, our job is to try to get you to do something, to try to get you to buy something, to try to get you to click a button, to try to get you to download something, to try to get you to use something. Project management. This is organizing yourself, organizing others, thinking towards the future, thinking 10 steps ahead, 20 steps ahead. You always got to be ahead of the game. And it's leadership. It's project management, it's leadership, and it's organization. Being able to present complex ideas in easy to understand ways, like I'm doing right now with this lovely graph that I put together for everyone. Finally, it's community, which community is both a good word and a bad word. It's the good way of interpreting community is it's the people behind everything. It's the people. It's the people who are there in the morning, the ones who are running the calls, the ones who are staying late, the ones who are accepting your pull requests, who are giving you guidance, who are coaching you, who are helping you. It's also used negatively in a derogatory way to sort of blow off a lot of what happens in developer advocacy as, oh, you're just your community, you're not technical enough. So as beautiful as community is, I also find it in some cases used in a negative context. So what are you actually doing? So that's nice and hypothetical, but let's look at what really goes on for 99% of the developer advocates in the room here. What do you actually do here? So number one, it's brainstorming meetings. These sound like fun and they're exciting at first, but it's easy for these to become chaotic and for these to drag on and to take time. So the one thing I've learned from just doing meetings over and over again with people all over the industry is come to meetings prepared. Like look at a meeting like a function, right? Like it should have a clear input, a clear output. And you know, you can do brainstorming in meetings if you would like. You can do them on your own time, but just having an awareness that you are in control there and that you can make meetings as detailed and as consolidated and driven as possible, or as chaotic as possible. Running open source calls. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to type the notes. Somebody's got to set up the calls, run Zoom, hit record, upload to YouTube. There's a lot that goes into it. And the first time you do it, it's fun. Like everybody can lead one open source call. That's not hard. Talk to me when you've been leading open source calls for 5 years. It's a different paradigm, and it's a different skill to be able to do it week after week after week and to continue to keep up with it. It's discipline. I mean, like we're building a mountain out of grains of rice here. Documentation. Everyone knows documentation is hard, but as a developer advocate, this is something I find myself doing all the time. Somebody needs to do it, and if you don't roll your sleeves up and do it, it's usually not going to get done. Blogging, begging, literally begging people to help you with things, personal favors. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. And finding shit. Like the internet's a big, vast place, and you got to take all this chaos and this noise and make it digestible for people. So a lot of your job is just spent cleaning things up and making things look pretty again. And lastly, this goes back into community. Typically, engineers don't look at community as that valuable. So anytime you identify with a community, it's an opportunity for engineers to begin ignoring you. The parts of developer advocacy that I don't think people are talking about, that it's really easy to kind of buffer overflow on. Therapy, sleeping, criticism, procrastinating your slides for next week. These are all things that every advocate I've ever talked to knows all too well. This is hard. This isn't as glamorous as a lot of people think it is. It requires a lot of work, and you and others are going to get hurt, and that's going to impact you emotionally, and you're going to need a way to figure out how to navigate that. Sleeping, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, traveling internationally was a huge deal. Sleeping was hard enough then, but even sleeping now, it's challenging. And getting a good night's sleep as a developer advocate is almost impossible with the time zone constraints. Criticism. As a developer advocate, you're going to be in front of people. You think open source is scary? You think somebody looking at your code is scary? Try walking on stage and getting asked these questions that are designed to make you look stupid. People criticize you, whether you want them to or not. you have to have thick skin. This is going to be a part of it. You're going to upset people and they're going to get mad at you and they are going to criticize you, both good ways and bad ways. Procrastinating your slides for next week. Nobody wants to do this. This is just a byproduct of the slides that are due this week, right? There's always next week and there's always this week, and next week becomes this week over and over again. So it's this ongoing cycle of trying to keep up with everything. And when you're in this ongoing cycle, you're never on time. You're never where you want to be. You're always a day late. And that goes back into therapy. That can be hard for a lot of folks. Let's talk open source. Let's talk healthy open source, like really healthy open source. Like nobody goes to therapy because open source is healthy open source. Let's look at this wonderful word called FOSS. I'm sure most of you have heard of FOSSDom. It stands for free and open source software. And there is so much that goes into that simple acronym, but it needs to be free. It needs to be open source, and the software is like the easy part, right? Like the actual code itself is simple. Everything else is what's challenging. Furthermore, I just wanted to call out that as an open source advocate, you're going to come into situations where you're going to start to notice there's a difference between open source versus open governance, open source versus open community even. Yeah, there's a difference between having a GitHub project with an Apache 2 license with source code that nobody else contributes to, and actually having a community of people thriving and working together and collaborating on a project because it makes sense for everyone. So just being aware that you can fall into either of these two categories is going to be a big part of it. And ultimately, it's about the people. Open source comes from people who have come together and said it's more important to share than it is to hide. And more important to share and collaborate in a scientific way than it is to bypass that and try to conceal what you're doing for monetary reasons. Lastly, I just wanted to call out marketing open source. Fundamentally, I believe this is fundamentally broken if you think about it. Very simply put, marketing is the act or process of selling something. We're trying to sell you something. If it's free, we're not selling you anything. So anytime any organization talks about having a marketing effort around open source, it's just something to be aware of, that there clearly is something else at play here. And that is a big part of what you're going to be dealing with as an open source advocate, is understanding that there is going to be marketing. That's how you get a paycheck. That's part of it. And a lot of the same tools that you use are going to be the same tools that marketing uses. And that's just a part of it. You're going to have to accept that. Okay, let's talk about a day in the life of a developer advocate. Right off the cuff here, I spend my life navigating toxic parasocial relationships, period. There is no polite way to put that. That is just my life, whether I like it or not. It's my job to be your friend. It's my job to be nice, be polite, be bubbly, put on a blue vinyl Kubernetes dress and makeup and like really just make you feel like $100. And I'm probably doing it right now because I'm getting really good at it because I've been doing it for years. And it's my job to get excited. So as a transgender woman, I'm naturally good at bullshitting people. I've been doing it for 27 years. It's something that I had to do. It was a survival technique, and it's a skill I developed out of that survival situation. And I've been able to monetize that as my day job, and that's where I am today. So let's run some quick numbers here. So if 10 people reach out to me on a given day, and each of those 10 people yield a 12-minute conversation, and that conversation yields one email thread, and then that email thread turns into a 1-hour Zoom call, which these are fairly reasonable metrics that a successful developer advocate would see on a given day. Quick arithmetic, 10 people times 12 minutes is roughly 2 hours. One email thread, let's say that takes 10 minutes of my life when you add everything up. Per person, that's now 100 minutes. And one Zoom call, which is 60 minutes per person, each of those 10 people, that's 600 minutes. And the quick arithmetic, 120, 100, 600, 820 minutes. So roughly 13 hours of fallout from these original 10 messages, which means it is possible for an 8-hour day to yield 13 hours of work in the future. So this is where we start getting into exciting conversations around burnout and what it actually looks like to try to keep up with this and to try to keep up with this incoming set of data. All of this is before I even have a cup of coffee in the morning. This is before I even start remember the graph we looked at earlier, those other categories, engineering, brainstorming, blogging, documentation, all of those other things, running open source calls. This is all before all of that. And you do all this before your actual job starts. And ultimately, this is exhausting. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm a pretty crazy, intense person who can do some pretty ridiculous, superhuman things, but I can't always keep up with this. So let's actually talk about this word I said earlier called parasocial relationships. This is a psychology concept. Parasocial interaction, or PSI, refers to a kind of psychological relationship experienced by an audience in their mediated encounters with performers in the mass media. Viewers or listeners come to consider media personalities as their friends, despite having limited reactions with them. I cannot tell you how many nights I have cried because of this. How many times I've been hurt, how many people I've hurt, how many negative experiences I've had in my life because somebody thinks they know me, because somebody thinks they're my friend, and I don't even know their first name. I don't even know where they're from. I don't even know anything about them. And this is what keeps me up at night. This is what my therapist hears about week after week after week. It's not easy to be in this situation, and you're given a lot of responsibility. Kris Nova is Kris Nova to everyone but Kris Nova. To me, I'm just a weird trans girl in San Francisco, but every time I walk into a room, things change. People change the conversation, things happen. I don't know what I did to get this power, but it's there. I've never been to a Kris Nova talk before. I give talks. I don't know what they're like. I don't know what it's like to be on the other end of this camera right now. I do not follow me on Twitter. In fact, I don't follow many people on Twitter because I like to use Twitter as a way for me. It's an outlet. It's a place for me to scream into the void. Honestly, I don't remember most people. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just because it's hard. I see a lot of faces. I talk to a lot of people, and everybody knows me and thinks that we're friends when they walk up to me, and it's hard, and I hurt people, and that breaks my heart because I don't want to be in that situation. Ultimately, whenever somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, Kris," I know right away that they don't know me. None of my friends call me Kris. Okay, so let's talk tech events. Here's what you can expect. Emails with relevant information chaotically scattered everywhere. And it goes beyond emails. It's Slack, it's Twitter, it's emails, it's DMs, it's text messages. Every event has a different way of communicating. And I will just say that this event is probably the best event I've been to this year, as far as organization and communication and just setting expectations with me. Everything was in one place, and it was beautiful. Couldn't have asked for a better time. There's going to be people with a lot of energy. You don't always have that same amount of energy, especially after a 12-hour flight to a different time zone and a lack of sleep. Selfies. I'm a trans woman. I hate looking at myself. I absolutely despise looking in the mirror. I particularly hate taking photos. I like to take the photos of myself that I like to look at, and I'll put those on the internet so that people use those instead of the photos they take. But ultimately, I take selfies for you. I don't like the fact that I've had testosterone in my body for 20 years. That does not bring me joy. I don't know why, but every event you go to and you do a technical presentation, there's somebody in the audience who wants to try to make you look stupid. I guess there's just a rule when they walk into the room that they're going to have to try to stump you somehow. And you need to be prepared for that. Any tech event, there's going to be deadlines, emails, chaos, slides, content, and of course, Twitter. That just goes with it. So it's more than just a presentation, right? It's a lot of other, it's making slides, it's preparing. It's like, I had to get a good night's sleep last night. I had to eat a healthy breakfast today. There's a lot of your personal life that goes into giving an event. This isn't just walking into a meeting and talking and then walking out of it. It goes with you much deeper. You're a spokesperson, whether you like it or not. If there's a photo of you drinking LaCroix, LA Crocs on camera somewhere, you are now a spokesperson for that beverage. And that's just the way it goes. So if you use a certain text editor, if you use certain slides, if you don't use a certain text editor, that's going to be a part of you. Let's talk what it's like to be a woman in tech. I'll keep this brief. I've spent the last couple of years of my life talking about this. Typically, people view advocacy as a less technical role. And typically, people associate that with women. That's just the way it is. Diversity panels. If you're a woman in tech, particularly a developer advocate, people are going to ask you to do diversity panels. And in most cases, they're going to ask you to do this instead of asking you to do a technical talk. So you need to be ready to do these diversity panels and protect yourself from them, right? Like, they're fun to do. It makes the world a better place. You get to meet really beautiful, amazing people. But ultimately, like, if you view this as a job, it's not your job, right? Like that's outside of scope of Kris Nova, the software engineer. And ultimately, you better fucking smile and be nice. Like that's goes with anything you do in developer advocacy, but there is an expectation, particularly for women, for you to be slightly more engaging and slightly more approachable. And that just comes with the turf. Let's talk about boundaries. Right away, you're gonna hurt people. If you're a successful developer advocate, you are going to hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody's going to get pissed off, and you're probably going to end up hurting yourself as well. This question, why don't you follow me on Twitter? I've been asked this question so many times, and the reason is because the second I follow somebody, I get 10 more of these questions, and these hurt people. I don't want to hurt people. Are you my friend? I don't know. Are we friends? Have we gone mountain climbing together in the past week? Do you have my phone number? Why didn't you message me back? See arithmetic earlier. It's very, very hard for a lot of us to get back to you. Can we take a selfie? I'll take a selfie for you. It's probably not going to make me happy. Why didn't you come to my talk? I was sleeping. I haven't slept in 2 days. I needed to sleep. Why did you reject this event? See arithmetic earlier. I'm exhausted. I'm overworked. Setting boundaries is important. Your Twitter opinions are your own. This is my next tattoo. My Twitter opinions are my own. These belong to me and no one else. And unfortunately, I've had to put more and more of a boundary up between what I say on the internet and my own self. This is me, whether you like it or not. And these opinions belong to me. No meetings today. This is something I do quite often, just so I can catch up on the rest of the things I need to do. No events this month. I've done this one before as well. I just need a break. I just need to chill for a month. Turning my DMs off. I can't handle it right now. I have too much other stuff going on. No blogs this month. I'm not going to generate content in the written word this month. These are all things that a developer advocate could potentially use in their toolbox to protect themselves as this overwhelming amount of work comes their way. CFPs, call for procrastination. So tech events are important to people who organize tech events. Meaning that right now, this is like concretely, this is a very important event, but a lot of people put a lot of effort into this and have done a beautiful job at making this happen. And you need to acknowledge that and respect that. And every tech event has that same expectation, and it can be a lot, both for the organizers and for you. And so just having that awareness as you start doing more and more tech events is going to be critical. Events typically view presentations as a commodity. They're not paying you. You do these for free. The sort of unwritten arrangement here is this presentation benefits you and your use case in the same way it benefits the event. No going back from marketing presentations. This is huge. The second you cross that boundary of becoming a marketing pitch, there's really no going back from that. You kind of put the bad taste out there once, and it becomes clear what your agenda is, and it's really hard to recover from that. And ultimately, I feel like more people should be honest about this. Any event that monetizes anything means they're going to be monetizing you, period. That's just the nature of the beast. And that's okay. That's okay to talk about. It's okay for people to acknowledge this. And it's just something that we need to be aware of as we move into this. There are two types of people who speak at events: those that submit CFPs and those that don't. I hate this. There are ways to get accepted to an event that does not require a CFP. One of the ways is money. Another way is just knowing people or having a big enough reputation. I think that's fundamentally broken. I think everybody should be given the same chance and be given the same way and the same opportunity for submitting CFPs. Let's talk about energy. I know I'm almost out of time here. I'm going to wrap up shortly. Folks are going to be excited. And the first few times you do this, that's gonna be very exciting for you. But over time, that level of excitement is not something you can recreate day after day. It's just not. No human being can do that. Lots of coffee, yes, that's gonna help out a lot as you move into the space, and it's just gonna be an exercise of trying to match that level of excitement as you start to do this more and more, and ultimately exhaustion. Excitement inevitably turns to exhaustion if you're not given a break. So doing this as a day job can be exhausting. This isn't scalable. Nobody's able to do this indefinitely for years and years without some sort of balance or without taking a break. And ultimately being burnout is going to hurt others and it's going to hurt you. So just be prepared for some pain. Like, this isn't all glamorous. There's going to be some negative things that happen along the way. Let's talk about burnout. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress, period. That's it. And this field is a recipe for burnout. You look at what you're doing and the amount of your personal life that goes into it, and it can be exhausting. So what do you do now that you're burnt out? Everyone recharges in their own way. For me, I climb mountains. One thing I tell people that I feel like a lot of folks don't realize is I don't climb mountains because I'm bored. I didn't wake up and say, like, I have all this energy and I'm going to go climb a mountain. It sounds wonderful. I climb mountains because if I don't, I go crazy. I need to recharge, and that's how I do it. Some people sleep, some people cook. Everybody's different. Memory loss. This is something I feel like a lot of developer advocates aren't talking to, which is, it's easy with a lack of sleep to start losing your memory. So I would do it again. It hasn't all been bad, but I absolutely would do this again. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all these amazing people here who have made this part of my life possible. And I don't want to scare anyone, but I do want to be real. So it is Halloween, so hopefully I didn't scare anyone too much. But thank you. So without further ado, 71 years is far too short a time to have lived such an excellent, admirable hobbits. I don't know half of you as well as I should, and I know less of half of you as well as you deserve. I have things to do. I regret to announce that this is the end. I am going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell. Goodbye. I will no longer be doing public speaking or developer advocacy in my career. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. Kris, thank you so much for that talk. So many important concepts. I'm not sure if you've left us immediately or not. Could you give us a signal?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Obviously, you aren't able to follow the chat while this is happening, but so many words of support, encouragement, and love. Lots of hugs, lots of appreciation for talking about the important things, and you know, I'd like to echo that from my side as well. We really appreciate the effort you put into today, and really just bringing up some of those points that make it difficult to do the day in, day out developer advocate role. It's an important point that needed to be brought up, and I think you did a very eloquent job of it.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Great. There were no questions. There was only support. I would really encourage you to go into the Brella app later and just have a little scroll back. But for now, after that, I will let you go, and I'll give a few announcements out about what's coming up next, if that's okay, unless there are any final comments you'd like to share.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So the quality just keeps getting better and better here at the Software Circus. It's absolutely amazing, the limbs that people are going out on. I'm not quite sure if that's an English only term, but whether it's turning up in costume in the middle of COVID when everyone's got kids and all sorts of works things going on, stuff like that, or whether it's like Kris just did and really showing us, you know, the bowels, I suppose, of a role that I think quite a lot of the people aspire to. I know there were some comments in here about people saying it's my first day as a developer advocate today, and this talk couldn't be better timed. I hope it hasn't put you off, but I think, as we all know, working in software, the work that developer advocates do often goes underappreciated, but is incredibly important, especially in the open source world. Thank you again. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip through to talking a little bit more about what's coming up next. So directly after this, we're going back over to track 3, which is the Software Circus TV Scary DJ set. I'm not actually sure if it's the same DJ as we had last time. I kind of hope so, but I'm up for something new as well. That's a 15-minute gap on track 3. After that, we're back into talks. I'm going to be hosting Adam Sander talking about knee-deep in GitOps. And Ellen Corbs on the other side is going to be hosting a talk with a very long name, Texas Container Massacre, Terrifying Tales of Lifting, Shifting, and Being Buried by Legacy Applications Running in Containers and Other Stories from the Field. Now, a quick story I'd like to share about the talk I'm hosting next. Adam, either his Twitter handle is Doom Guy, or he made some joke about Doom Guy, and Carla from the Software Circus reached out to John Romero. Now, for any of you who are old enough, you will remember that John Romero and John Carmack were the two Johns that made Doom, Doom 2, Quake 2, maybe? I'm not quite sure when John Romero left. Carla reached out to John Romero, and John Romero actually replied to the tweet and wished Adam the best of luck for this talk that's coming up next, which really touched me. I used to be a big gamer in the late 90s, and that kind of made my day. Anyway, many more amazing talks coming up. I believe we've got about 2 more hours of content. In the meantime, get yourselves over to track 3, where you're going to see our spooky DJ. Thank you all very much, and bye-bye.